Do you believe that God can completely transform your life? Hi, my name's Debora Barr, and I grew up in a loving family, the oldest of 4 children. In high school, I experienced a deep betrayal by someone very close to me, and as a result, I decided that God didn't exist, that the God that I knew as a child was a lie. My parents ended up getting divorced, and our family was broken, never to recover. My life was beginning to spiral out of control, and I began to abuse drugs and alcohol and slid into deep depression, even contemplating suicide. Later on, I went to college, and in college, I experienced sexual abuse by older men. And as a result, I began to dress in a way that would not attract them to me. At the age of 24, I went into the Army, and there I met a woman who would gently introduce me to homosexuality. Her love and attention towards me were intoxicating, and I fell deeply in love with her. This propelled me into a life of lesbianism, where I stayed for the next 18 years, even believing that I was born gay and couldn't change. In 1994, a woman that I was dating invited me to go to church with her. Well, I immediately told her that God didn't exist. But yet she said to me, "Deb, Jesus wants you back." Well, eventually I relented and began attending church with her. Turns out it was a gay church. And there they taught me that God had created me to be gay and that He was pleased with my sexuality. Well, that relationship didn't last either. And in 2000, I moved to a different part of the country. And there I met a woman that I was certain that I would spend the rest of my life with. About a year after we met, we traveled to Vermont and entered into a civil union. And we came back and we built our dream home together and got into the gay community in our town. But still I felt something was missing. And I decided that I needed to find a church. So we started going to different churches in our town and settled on a Baptist church where the people were very welcoming to us and the pastor was teaching from the Bible in a way that I could understand. And in 2003, on November 23rd, I surrendered my life to Christ and began to allow Him to take the role in my life that I had held on to for so long. Well, Barb and I decided that now that we were saved, we wanted to know more about Christianity and how to live out this life. So we joined a women's Bible study group, and there they began to teach us how to pray and how to praise and how to study the Bible for ourselves. And the amazing thing about these women is they never once judged us or even mentioned homosexuality, even though they knew exactly what we were dealing with. They just loved us right where we were, unconditionally. Well, Barb and I began to study the Bible together every day, and we began to apply biblical principles to our lives. And that's where God began to perform miracles for us. We began to tithe and give of our offerings, and He healed our finances. We started asking specific things in prayer and fasting, and God would answer those prayers. And God healed my heart when I was able to forgive the person who had hurt me so many years before. As we began to apply these biblical principles, God performed miracles. About 2 years later, God began to reveal to both of us that we were not living in accordance with His will and His design for our lives. Well, now we had a decision to make. Were we going to continue living lives our way, or were we going to follow hard after Him, despite the cost? Well, we made that decision in December of 2005. We decided to walk away from homosexuality. We repented before God and before our women's Bible study group and turned our lives around. Those women in that group were crucial to me at that stage in my life because I was grieving the loss of my identity. I had identified myself as a lesbian for 18 years. Now I didn't know who I was. We grieved the loss of the relationship with the two of us because we still loved each other, yet we were doing what God wanted us to do. So these women were crucial, and the men of the church were crucial in helping us through this tough transition. While so much was lost, so much more was gained. God began to flood my heart with the love that only He can provide, and I began to get healing in every area of my life. It was amazing. The peace of God now rules and reigns in my heart because I'm no longer practicing sin that is separating me from intimacy with Him. My same-sex attractions actually naturally diminished as God's love began to fill my heart and as these women were there for us, just loving us unconditionally. I wrote a book called All Things New, A Former Lesbian's Lifelong Search for Love. and it contains my journal entries over a period of about 5 years as I was transitioning out of homosexuality. And I wrote it to encourage you that no matter what you are dealing with in your life, we all have sin in our lives. God makes an amazing difference. I also lead a discipleship ministry at my church called All Things New, a discipleship ministry for healing. And I've created a facilitator guide and workbooks so that this ministry can be duplicated in churches all over the world. I hope my story has encouraged you to know that through an intimate relationship with Jesus Christ, change is possible. Please visit my website to learn more, dbarministries.org.